Okay, so I'm going to go over how to detail millwork at DAS here. So you can see here we have a bar model in 3 dimensions. That's what it looks like there. I'll add, there's another tutorial in the knowledge base on how to actually build this bar and sort of do the 3-dimensional work. This tutorial is going to focus on the actual detailing side of things. So the first thing to do is to kind of understand the difference between really most other plans and these millwork plans here, the 1100 series. And the same is going to hold true for the elevations and the sections. So you can see here I've got a pair of walls just to kind of illustrate a building a little bit. If I click over to the 1100 millwork plans view, those walls are gone, as are all those other elevations we saw in the working plan, in the architectural plan, and so on, right? So this millwork plan view has this view template, plan millwork, attached to it, and this view template is pretty much shutting off everything except for casework, and then the annotation elements that are associated with that. So as part of that, if we go to make a section here, you just want to make sure that when you go to make this section, that before you draw it, you have section millwork type on. If I try and draw a building section in here, you can see it's not going to show it up because we've told this view to filter out all these different sections except for millwork sections. So when I switch that item back over to millwork, it appears in here pretty good. That looks good. The same is going to be true of elevations, right? If I go to make an elevation view, oops, just delete that, and add a view there, delete that one. That looks pretty good. Grab this guy and do CS for create similar. That looks pretty good. And so because these are millwork views and section views, they're going to show up here in this view. But if I go to the architectural plan, those callouts are not shown in here, which is important. We don't want to be seeing all this stuff floating around in here. So that's the first step. The second step is going to be to actually detail this. Now, what we're going to do is ultimately we're going to end up creating a group that is going to hold the model geometry, which is this family, and then we're going to create attached detail groups that represent the plan detailing, this section detailing, and these 2 elevations. The reason we're doing that is because you can't really you can't have model elements and detail elements in the same groups together. So you see here down at the bottom of the project browser, there's families and there's groups at the bottom. And you have detail groups and model groups, and they need to be distinct. But Revit does let us attach them together, which is what we're going to do. And the reason we're going down this road of making these groups and doing all this stuff is that, let's say I go in here and use DL for detail line. I go to draw a line. Let's say I want to represent kind of a dashed line that occurs, this is the edge of the bar below, and this is an overhanging lip here. If I'm in the architectural plan and let's say I want to move this bar up a little bit and not really thinking about the detailing, if I go back here to the M1 plan, everything's kind of broken, right? These items are not sort of attached to the bar, which is where groups come in. So I'm going to undo that and I'm going to delete this. So the first thing here is to create a group. So grab what we want to make the group out of, hit this little create group or hit GP, and we're going to call it M1_bar. Okay, so then that is a model group, and if we go here in the browser, M1 bar is the model group. So then we're going to hop inside of this group by either double clicking it or hitting edit group, and then once we open this group up in this in the project, you can see there's this edit group dialog that pops up, and it gives us this attach option to attach a detail group. So let's do that, and let's do M1, oops, sorry, M1 bar plan. All right, so now that we're here in this detail group, if I go to architecture tab, I can't create any architectural elements. I can only create annotation elements. That's because we're in a detail group. So let's say I want to make a detail line, and I want to do the same process we did before. I'm going to take that, I'm going to make it dashed, right? I'm going to finish that. Now I finished out of that detail group that was kind of buried inside of this main group. I want to finish the main group as well. Now what happens, and you see here what just happened, is I have M1 bar, and then I have this floor plan, M1 bar plan. And these detail groups are smart enough to know what kind of view they came from, which is going to be handy in the future. So if I want to grab this model group and move it, you can see now this detail group travels with it, which is exactly what we want. Now, a little funky thing that happens is this detail group is kind of attached to the model group, so we can't move the detail group on its own. I can't grab that detail group and move it. I have to move the model group. So that's an important distinction there. And I'll go through some ways that we can kind of try to break these groups. There are a couple ways you can do it, but luckily you can kind of always get the group back. So let's try and move this down. So the next thing is, let's create a section, right? So if we're going to go to this section here, so that's going to be in sections, and then inside of Millwork, and we've got this section 3. Now I'm just going to, I'm not sure which of those is which, so let's just make a new section. Oops, make sure we do Millwork. If you don't see the section popping up, that's a bad sign. So here we got section 3. Let's rename this. Oh, sorry about that. Rename, not delete. M1 bar section. Okay. Let's hop into this view, and this is what we got right here. Right, so it's looking okay. You can hide this view if you'd like. I'll go through and make us another view template for, elevation millwork. We don't have it yet, or section millwork, but we'll get that together. But really what we're going to end up doing is basically the same process we did in plan, right? We want to edit the group, the model group. We want to attach a detail group. We want to call it M1 underscore bar underscore section. All right. We're going to use detail lines, detail components, filled regions, all those things you'd think of. Trim that together and move that up so it looks a little more realistic. Yeah, a little toe kick here. Maybe you've got a kick plate, something like that. I don't know. Right. And let's hit finish on that. And then finish out of here. Now, what's going on is we've got this detail group, and then we have the model group here. So we could just hide this model group altogether in the view. I generally prefer to not do that. I think it's nice to be able to kind of pick an edge of it and kind of, sort of see it beyond in cases like this where you see the bar kind of going in a different direction. And then just in general, if we change this bar, it's kind of good to be able to see what's going on. So what I like to do is use the line work tool, and if you'd like to just not see it so it's sort of nice and clean, you can change it to invisible lines, and then that line is gone, but the element is still kind of there. Oops. The other option, LW for line work, is to change it to hidden lines, and that's going to kind of make it this sort of dashed green, and it's going to not appear when you print, just like you would for like a reference plane or a reference line. We can hide this in the view, or I'll actually create a view template where that'll just all go away, and you'll just apply the view template, section underscore millwork. That'll save you some time. So that's the elevation or the section view, and you can see here it's stashed inside of millwork, millwork section. The plan is stashed inside of millwork bar. And then let's head back here and let's just create this, just do one of the elevation. We're not going to do both. So the elevations are stashed inside elevations, millwork, and then I'm going to rename this. Actually, I'm not sure which is which, so I'm just going to delete this one altogether so it's out of the way. There we go. Millwork bar, front elevation. Okay. Open that up. Same deal. Edit the group. Attach. And one bar, front elevation. Okay. Make some detail lines. Boop, boop. Now, you can kind of make like some coffers on the front. I don't know. It's pretty ugly, but you get the idea. Finish that. Finish the overall group. That's looking pretty good. Now, if we take this and we slide this to the side, you can see everything is traveling along with it. If I go into the plan, everything is moving. That looks great. If I go into this section, everything is moving. So it's all sort of attached together, which is really nice. Now, the one thing that is a little weird is if this section, let's say it just totally wanders off the view altogether, right? So if we go back to this section, now we kind of don't even see the plan and the model anymore. We just see this detail component. And let's say I go back to the M1 bar and we just move it somewhere else altogether. And then move this. Revit might actually be able to figure this out. No, it can't. Good. So what happened there was we moved so many different things in so many different ways that Revit kind of got confused. It didn't know where to place that detail group in relation to the model group. And so it just kind of deleted the detail group altogether. But it's not gone. It's still attached. If we go in here to model group bar, there it is, M1 bar section. So we can get it back by hitting this attached detail groups and selecting the one we want. And Revit is smart enough to know that this is a vertical section, or maybe it might be an elevation, I'm not sure, but it does know it's not a plan. So we'll do that, and hopefully it will reapply it. Oh, you know what? Here, let's try and do this. I think what happened is we might have lost the location of the section. There we go. Yeah, so you can see it kind of, sometimes it takes a little bit to massage it. You have to open up the view range a little bit and be able to actually get a hold of it. But that worked out pretty good. If we take a look at the front elevation, so I have to actually go in the elevation. This is looking pretty good. If I move this, it's going to be able to keep it. If I move the marker off of it, weird things are going to happen. Probably the most damaging thing you can do to these groups is to rotate them. So if I try and take this model group and rotate it, bad things are going to kind of start happening, right? So you can see here, this detail group really did not stay with it, and now of course all of our views are kind of messed up. So what we can do here is, our best bet is going to be to rotate everything all at once, like that. So that kind of helps to keep things somewhat together, but you can see the plan view still did not really, it's having a hard time knowing where the center point of this rotation is, and we can't really move this, which is problematic. But what we can do is we can hit edit group, and we can grab what we need to, and we can move it back to a new location. Unfortunately, that's the best move. So definitely rotating a piece of millwork after it's been placed and detailed is going to be probably the most difficult thing to fix. But again, it's not the end of the world. You just have to move all your detail components back into place, and you should be all right. If we take a look here, that's still looking pretty good. It looks like it kind of moved a little bit. Actually, it did move, right? This should be aligned here. So what we can do is just delete it, grab this, reattach the section, and nope, same problem, right? So we have to do the same deal here where we go into this item and we have to move this back to where it needs to be, which was right there. So unfortunately, that's kind of one of the idiosyncrasies of rotating groups after you've detailed them. Moving them is fine, but rotating them is problematic. But yeah, that's how you go about doing that. And then the last step would be, you know, to go in here and just go into your Millwork details sheet, grab your section view, you know, trim this up as you need, and then grab your plan view. Oops, sorry. Millwork details. Dump the plan view on there, you know, of course, trim everything back up. And then, you know, once you have these on sheets, they'll start, you know, tagging themselves in automatically and referencing and doing everything you need. So that's that.